Let's now work on our movie form. So let's go to create movie and let's see that we don't have anything here. So let's work on that. Let's come to Visual Studio Code. I will close everything, close all, and let's get to work. Let me go to movies, right click here, new file. We will create our movie form component, TSX, enter. And in here, we're going to repeat the same process that we have done in the past. So function, movie form, props, movie form, props, return, parentheses, formic. Then here I will say formic props, lambda, parentheses, form. And we're going to define this interface. So interface, this and this. So let me create the model. So let me go here, and in movies I need to create a new file. Nope, it is here. I need a movie creation DTO. So let me minimize this and say export interface movie creation DTO. And what is our movie going to have? We will have a title, a string. We will also have in theaters in case the movie is in theaters. So boolean, semicolon here. We will have a trailer, a string, release date, optional, a date. We will have a poster, optional, which is a file, poster URL, optional also, which is a string. And for now, that's it. Now let me save and let me copy this and let me come here. And I want to say model, colon, movie creation DTO, and let me import this like this from movies model. And let's come here, semicolon, on submit, values, movie creation DTO, actions, formic helpers, control dot, and movie creation DTO, colon here, void. Now let's say here in the formic component, initial values, props model, on submit, submit, props on submit, validation schema, and we're going to import job. So import everything as job from job, and then we're going to say job object, and we're going to pass the title because the title is going to be a string require. This field is required first letter uppercase, and we can ignore this because this will get fixed in a minute. Let me now come to this form, and what I want to do is, as always, have two buttons. So I will just copy them from genres form. Let me copy this from here and let me just paste it here, and let me import bottom. So import bottom from Uril's bottom, and let me import link also. So link from React Router DOM, and let me put this in another line so that you can visualize it better. Now let me put the form controls for this form. This one is going to be easy because we already have all of those components created. So first the title. Let me say here text field, and I'm going to say display name title and also field title. Then let me say text field again, this time for the trailer, and let me put here the trailer. Then we need one for the date, so date field, display name, release date, and field release date. This should have been written in a way that is easy to read for the users. So date like this, and let me close this, and then we can do image field. Let me close here and say display name poster field poster, and also image URL equal to props model poster URL. Now we need to import all of this and then create a new component. So let me start with importing this one from forms text field. Let me clone this and this, And let me copy this and put it here and here. This is for the image field, and then the date field, and that should be fine. Now I need to create a new component, one for the in theaters, one for the checkbox. So let me come here, let's come to forms, right click, new file, checkbox field.tsx, enter, and let me say here export default function checkbox field props checkbox field return parentheses div, and let me close this div here. Let me say here class name mb3 form check field, which comes from formic, class name form check input id, and let me bring the interface, let me create the interface checkbox field. So let me say display name a string and also field a string, and let me say here props field name props field, and let me say type checkbox, and then label HTML4 props field, and finally here props display name. Okay, so we have this created. Now let's copy it and let's come here, and I will just clone this and say checkbox field and copy and paste this here. Now let's use this checkbox field component right below the title, so this, and then display name in theaters, and finally field in theaters. Okay, so we're ready to use our new movie form component. Now let me go to the Explorer, and I want to go to movies to create movie, and in here we're going to say movie form, and let me import our movie form, import movie form from movie form, and in here I will pass the model, which will have an empty title, also in theaters false, trailer empty, and also let me say here on submit equal to values console log values, and that's it from here. Now let me do the same for the edit movie component, so let me paste this here and let me import this here from this, and here I will say something like Toy Story in theaters true, trailer I will just say URL for now. Later in the future this will be a YouTube URL, and also let me put a comma here. Also let me say here release date, new date, and I will choose 2019 01 01 T000000, and that should be enough. Let me save, and let's go to Google Chrome and let's see what we have. We have this form. I can say, for example, Spider-Man in theaters, my trailer, release date, I can choose this date, poster, I will choose a poster for the movie, so this one, and save changes, F12, and we're going to see that we have this object in theaters, poster, release date, Spider-Man, my trailer, so it is great. Now edit /15, and here we have Toy Story in theater selected, URL, and the release date, and we haven't selected a poster, but that is fine. Let me say Toy Story 2, save changes, and as you can see, Toy Story 2 is here. Now, we actually haven't finished with this form because there are a few things that we need to do. For example, you know that a movie can have genres, you know that a movie can have actors playing in it, and you know that a movie can be displayed in different movie theaters. We need to create some form controls that will allow us to make a relationship between movies and genres, between movies and actors, and between movies and movie theaters. Let's see that. In this video, we are going to work with the relationship between movies and genres. The idea is that we're going to list all of the genres and the user will be able to select the genres that are related to the movie. So for that, we're going to create a new component. Let me go to Explorer. In Forms, I will right click, New File. I'll say multiple selector.tsx, enter, and let me create our new component. So let me say here, export default function multiple selector, and this will have some props. So props multiple selector props return parentheses, and let's get to work. So first I will create this interface, and this interface will have three parameters. The first one is going to be selected, which are the selected items, for example selected genres. So I need for that an interface. So interface here, and let me export it because I will need it in some places. I will say multiple selector model, let me say key number, and also value a string. Now here I will have an array of multiple selector model and also non-selected for the non-selected option. So again an array, and finally on change selected multiple selector model selected, and also non-selected multiple selector model array. So now let's work on the UI of our component. So let's say div. Here I will say class name multiple selector. Then on our list, here I will say props non-selected map item, and in here I will say list item key, which is the unique value on click, and in here I will do something. For now I'll just leave this empty, and then I will say item value, and then after that I will create another div, and then I will say class name multiple selector buttons, and I will have here two buttons. So button 1 type button, this will have this symbol inside of it because this button will be for selecting everything and this one for deselecting everything. Then let me say here on order list, and actually I will do the same thing that I did here. So I will just copy this and paste it here, only that this will be for the selected array of items. Now let's work on the functionality of this component. Let's come here and let me create a few functions. I will say function select item. This will be for when the user selects something. So multiple selector model, and then I will say const selected equal to, and I will say props selected item. What am I doing here? I am concatenating the parameter that has the selected items, and I am concatenating that with the selected item. So what has been selected with the new selected item. Then I will say non-selected equal to props non-selected filter, and I will filter out what was selected. So value different than item, and then I will say props unchanged, and I will pass selected and non-selected to the parent component, so that component can deal with this change. So that is great. Now I will do the same for deselect. So let me copy this and paste it here, and I will say deselect, and now I will just change the roles here. This will be here non-selected, and this will be here non-selected, and this will be selected, and here I will filter from the selected array what was selected. So this is for deselecting something that was already selected. Now I need to add two more functions, which are function select all for selecting everything. In this case I just have to say selected equal to props selected and props non-selected. So I am concatenating what has been selected with what hasn't been selected. Then I will say const non-selected, which will be of type multiple selector model, and this will be equal to an empty array. Then props unchanged selected, and none selected. Okay, now we only need to do one more, deselect all, and we're going to do the same that we did before. We are going to copy this and paste it here, only that this will be none selected, and we're going to change this from here to here just so that we are respecting the order, and then selected will be empty like this. And that's it. Now I need to use those functions here. Here in this onClick, I will say select, and I will pass the item that was selected. Here in the select, I will say deselect and the item. And in here, in the buttons, I will say this one is for selecting everything. So onClick, select all. And here for deselect all, we're going to say onClick, deselect all. Now we need to work with the UI. Let me come here, and inside of the return I will say div, and I want to cut this from here and paste it here and organize everything. And in here I will say class mv3, and also this should be class name, and also let me say here label, and I want to pass through these props here display name string, and here I will put in this label props display name. Now something else that we need to do is to create a CSS for this component. So let me create here a new file, multiple selector CSS, and let's here work on this. Let me say multiple selector display flex, then multiple selector on our list, height overflow y auto, list style type none, width 170 pixels, padding 0, border radius 3 pixels, border 1 pixel, solid gray. Then multiple selector ULLI, cursor pointer, border bottom 1 pixel, solid EEE, padding 2 pixels and 10 pixels, font size 14 pixels. Now let's put a hover effect here. So let me copy this and paste it here and say hover, and let's say background color 08C for a blue color. Now let me say multiple selector buttons, display flex, let's come here, flex direction, column, let me say justify content, center, and padding 5 pixels. Finally, multiple selector buttons, button, margin 5 pixels. Now we're good to go. Now what we need to do is to come to multiple selector and import that CSS file. So let's come here and say import multiple selector CSS, and let's put this M uppercase. Let me save. And now what do we have to do? Well, we have to come to movie form and we have to actually use our multiple selector component. We will do that in the next video. In this video, we are going to use our multiple selector component. So for that, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say import multiple selector from forms multiple selector. Alright, so let's copy this and let's come down here and let's see what we have. Let me see that I have to say here display name, genres, then non-selected. For now, I'll just put an empty array, then selected, also an empty array, and finally on change, I'm going to say here, this should be an expression, selected, non-selected, and in here we're going to do something in just a few minutes. But we forgot to do something here in the multiple selector component. We need to say here void. This onChange must return void. So we can save, and now let's go to Google Chrome and let's see what we have. let's see the component which we have been working with. As you can see, we have a list here of non-selected genres and a list here of selected genres. Of course, the list is empty, but the important thing is that we'll be able to select a genre from here, and then it will go here to signify that it is selected, and we will also be able to deselect the genre. Okay, so let's work on this. Let me come back here, and the lists are empty because we're passing a empty array here. So let's work on that. What I need to do is to work with state variables, because what I want to do is that when I change one of these arrays, I want the component to be re-rendered. So let's do that. Let me come up here and let me say const selected genres, comma, set selected genres equal to use state control dot to import use state. And what I need to do here is to map from an array of genre DTO that will be sent by the parent component. I need to map that into a multiple selector model. So I will create a small function here, map to model, and then we will have here items, which will be of type or of a type that has an ID of type number and a name of type string, and this will be an array. Then this will return multiple selector model, and let me import that. Then let me put here return items map value, and I'm going to say return, and this should be item instead of value. Let me say here key item.id and also value item.name, and this should actually be here an array, okay, because we're mapping from, for example, the genres DTOs to an array of multiple selector model. Okay, we're good to go here. Let's say map to model, and let's say here props selected genres, and we need to create this prop. So let me come down here and let me say here below this on submit selected genres, genre DTO, and let me import that, an array. Let me do the same for non-selected genres. Now let me come up here and let me do what I did here, but for non-selected genres, and here set non-selected genres. And let me put this in another line so that you can see everything better. Now I need to pass these selected genres and non-selected genres into here. So let me delete this and say non-selected genres, and in here selected genres. And not only that, I need to come to this on change and say set selected genres, and I will pass selected, and then non-selected, set non-selected genres, and I will pass the non-selected. And that's great. Now when I change the values in the list of the multiple selector component, I will be updating our state variables here in the movie form component. Now we need to fix something, and that is that here we made a mistake and we have in non-selected genres, I have selected genres. So let me say non-selected genres. Besides that, as you can see, we have errors in create movie and edit movie. That is normal because we just added some properties, so we need to include them now. So let me come here, and below this on submit, I want to have non-selected genres. Let me put an empty array for now, and let me also have here selected genres. Now in the case of create movie, since we're creating a movie, we're only going to pass non-selected genres because a new movie shouldn't have a selected genre by default. So let me say const non-selected genres of type genre DTO, control dot to import this array, and we're going to put here, this should be like this, we're going to put here ID1 name comedy, comma, ID2 name drama. And now we're going to pass that non-selected genres into this non-selected genres attribute. Now we're going to do the same for edit movie, so let me copy this and let's come here to the edit movie component. Let me paste this here and let me control dot here to import this genre DTO interface. Now let me clone this, but here we will have selected genre. Now I will delete comedy from non-selected genre and I will delete drama from the selected genre, so that way we're going to have each array with one value. So let me say here non-selected genres equal to non-selected genres, and also selected genres equal to selected genres. Now we can do our first test. Let's come back to Google Chrome, and as you can see we are in edit, so we have drama and comedy. If I select drama, then it gets moved to that list. If I deselect everything, everything goes to the left. If I select everything, everything goes to the right. If I click on comedy, I'm deselecting comedy. If I go to create, we can go from here actually. So we have comedy and drama unselected. Let me click on comedy and drama, and as you can see, I selected everything and my multiple selector component is working. Now I need to be able to gather the information that comedy and drama are selected. So let's do that. Let me come here to Visual Studio Code and let's go to the movie form component, and in here we have this on submit. This is an ideal place in which I can gather that information. So let me do this and this like this. Let me put a parenthesis here and I will have here values and actions, and in here I will say values and actions. Now the idea is that before we call the parent component, I want to edit these values that we have here. I want to say values, and here I want to put genres IDs equal to selected genres.map, and I want to map item.key. And in that way I will have an array of the selected genres IDs. But I need to have these genres IDs in the movies model that we have here. So let me say here genres IDs, which is going to be optional, and this will be a number array. So let me save here and save here, and that should be enough. Now I have access to these values that are selected. So let me refresh just in case. F12. Let me select, for example, comedy. Let me say save changes. And obviously we have some validation rules, so let me say Toy Story, and that should be enough. Save changes. Now we have genres IDs which have the ID equal to 1. And if I select drama now and I clear the console, we're going to see that we can select anything because this didn't get liberated. So okay, I will just go and test edit 15 and let me select everything here. And let me say we have a title here, so save changes, and we have now genres IDs with the values 1 and 2, which is great. Now let's do the same for movie theaters, because we want to indicate that a movie can be in several movie theaters. So let's do that right away, and you're going to see how fast we can do that. Let me copy this from here and just repeat this here, but this time will be for selected movie theaters. So let me say here selected movie theaters, and also set selected movie theaters, and let me put that in another line so that you can visualize everything. And let me do the same for non-selected movie theaters and set non-selected movie theaters. We're just going to repeat the whole logic here. Now I need to add some properties to my component, so let's come here and I will say selected movie theaters, movie theater DTO array, control dot here to import our movie theater DTO. Let me see if we don't have one movie theater, and as you can see we don't have one, so let me just create a new one. So I'll copy this and paste it here, and I will say movie theater, and let me delete creation from here, and I will add an ID here, number. Now we're good to go. Now I can come here, control dot here, and import that, and I will clone this line and I will say non-selected movie theaters. So we have selected movie theaters and non-selected movie theaters. Now I can come up here and I can say here prop selected movie theaters, and here I will say non-selected movie theaters. Now let me come to this on submit, and let's do the same that I did here, but this time for movie theaters IDs. And I will say here selected movie theaters. Okay, now let me add this property into our movie creation DTO. So let me clone this and let me say here movie theater IDs, and let me save, and let's come back here and let's see that this is good now. Now let's come down here and let me clone this instance of the multiple selector component, and let me paste that here, and let me say here display name, this will be movie theaters. Here we will have non-selected movie theaters. Here we will have selected movie theaters, and in here we will say set selected movie theaters, and here we will say set non-selected movie theaters. We're going to say here set non-selected movie theaters. And that's it for this component. Now we have to go to create movie, and we have to do the same here. We need a array of non-selected movie theaters, and I will say here movie theater DTO control dot to import that. Let me put this in another line, and we're going to have two movie theaters, Sambil and Agora. And I will say here in the movie form component, I can say here non-selected movie theaters, and I will pass the non-selected movie theaters array that we just created, and also selected movie theaters, which will be an empty array because we're trying to create a new movie, and therefore it shouldn't have a selected movie theater. Now let me clone this, and I will go to edit movie, and I will paste that here, and I will say import movie theater DTO, and I want to clone this, and I want to paste that here, and I want to say here selected movie theaters, and I will delete Agora from here, and from here I will just delete this one so that we can have one movie theater on each array. Now let me come down here to the movie form component, and I want to say non-selected movie theaters, and I want to pass the non-selected movie theaters array, and then selected movie theaters equal to the selected movie theaters array. And that's it. Now I can save, and I can go back to Google Chrome, and I will refresh, and as you can see we have here genres, drama and comedy, and movie theaters, Agora and Sambil. And if I select Agora and deselect comedy here, I can see that we have a title, so save changes, F12. And now if we go to object, we're going to see that genres IDs is empty, which is normal because we deselected all of the genres, but movie theaters IDs has the IDs 1 and 2 that corresponds to Sambil and Agora. So as you can see, we were able to reuse our multiple selector component not only for indicating a relationship between movies and genres, but also to indicate a relationship between movie theaters and movies. Now we need to work with a relationship between actors and movies. We will see that next. In this video, we are going to start working with a component that will allow us to relate our movies with our actors. The idea is the following. We have this control here, the multiple selector component here, which allows us to select genres and movie theaters, but this is fine for the case that we have not too many elements to select. For example, we can imagine that there are 15 genres or something like that, and maybe we will also work with something like 15 movie theaters, but in the case of actors, there can be thousands upon thousands of actors in our database. Therefore, this is not viable here. We cannot do that here. We cannot list 1,000 actors here and expect our clients to just select them one by one. No, we have to use another control. And for that, I have chosen to use a type ahead. What is a type ahead? Well, a type ahead allows you to have a text box, and in it you can write, for example, Felipe, and then this will bring you every person with the name Felipe. So we're going to do that for our actors. We're going to have a type ahead in our React application. So let's do that. Let me come here to Visual Studio Code, and what we're going to do is that I will open the terminal, so new terminal, and in here I want to install two packages. The first one is going to be npm install react bootstrap type ahead, enter, and that is going to install a type ahead library. Now, because we are using TypeScript, we also have to install the following types. We have to say npm install -d at types / react bootstrap type ahead, enter. And now we can close this and we can continue working. So first we need to create a component. So let me come to the Explorer, and in Forms I will say new file, and I'll call this type ahead actors.tsx, enter. And let me minimize this and let's get to work. Let me say here export default function type ahead actors, and I will receive some props, type ahead actors props, return parentheses fragment here, and in here I will have a label, and we need for that a props display name. So let me come here and say interface, and let me copy this and paste it here, and I will say display name a string, and also I want to put actors, and I will create a new DTO called actor movie DTO array, and we need to create that model. So let me go to actors model.ts, export interface actor movie DTO. So what are we going to have here? Here we have 4 properties, which are ID, a number, name of the actor, a string, also the name of the character that the actor plays in the movie. So character, a string, and picture, a string also. And we're good to go here. So let's come back here, copy this, and let me import this from actors model. And let me say here type ahead, which comes from React Bootstrap type ahead. Let me close this here and let's get to work. Let me say ID type ahead, then on change, and this will be actor console log actor. We will just console log this for now. And speaking of actors, let me create an actors array here in memory, since we don't have a database. So actors, actor movie DTO array equal to, and here I will have ID 1, name Felipe, character empty, and also picture, and here we will put a picture. I will do that in just a moment. Let me clone this a few times. I want to have at least 3 actors. The second one is going to be Fernando, and the last one is going to be Jessica. So 2 here and 3 here, a comma here, and that should be it. Now I need some pictures. So let me go to Google and look for some pictures. Let's say Tom Holland, and let me open this Wikipedia page, right click, copy image address, let me paste that here. That is one. For Fernando, we can look for The Rock. Let's come here, Dwayne Johnson, let me select him, right click here, copy image address, let's go back here, let me paste that here. And finally for Jessica, we can choose, let me choose somebody like Meryl Streep. Okay, so right click here, copy image address, and we are finished. Now we have the actors, so let me insert that array of values into my type ahead. Let me say here options, actors, label key, actor, name. This refers to the value that we want to use to display the options. So we will show the name of the person in this case. So now let me say filter by, and I will filter by name, then place holder equal to write the name of the actor, and we're going to say here min length 1, so that it doesn't immediately try to search for the actor when the user hasn't written anything. Now let me go to the parent component. So let me go to movie form, and in here I am going to put our type ahead actor component. So type ahead actor, and let me bring that from the forms folder. So import from forms type ahead actors, semicolon here, and now let's come back here, and I need to put actors here, which for now will just be an empty array. And of course I need to put the display name attribute, which is going to be actors. Now let me save and let's see how we're doing. Let me come back to Google Chrome. Let me close this and this. Let's come back here and let me refresh, and let's see that we have actors. We need some margin here, but that is okay. Let me say here FE, and as you can see we have Felipe and Fernando. And not only that, if I say J, we have Jessica. So as you can see, this is allowing us to filter by the actor's name. If I select Jessica, you can see that if we go to F12, here we have an array of 1, which is Jessica, which was selected. And where are we console logging this? Well, we are doing that in the onChange event of the type ahead actor. Let's come here, and here we have this onChange, and here we're doing console log. Now, something that I was telling you is that we need some margin. So let me say div here and div here, and in here I want to say class name, and I want to say MB3. Save. Let's come back here and let me close this, and as you can see now there is some margin between this text box and the buttons. Now something that we need to do is that when I select somebody like Felipe, I want his name to be displayed below this text box, and in this way I can select several actors that will be the actors of the movie. So let's see that. Let's now work with showing the picture of the person here in the options, and also that when we select a actor, I want to see the actor listed below our type ahead. So let's do that. But first, you can see that the options are getting put below the text box, but I want them to be above. So let me fix that right away. Let's come here. We are here in our type ahead actors component. We are here in the type ahead component. I want to say here flip equal to true. Save. Let's go back here. And now as you can see, the options are above the text box. Okay, so now let's get to work. Let's come back here and let me work with displaying the picture of the actor. For that I have to use an attribute here called render menu item children, and this allows me to say what's the design that I want to appear in the options. So let me say here fragment, and let's come here and I will say image alt actor src actor picture. Let me close this and let me use some inline styling here. Let me say here height 64 pixels, then margin right 10 pixels, and I comma here, comma width 64 pixels. And then I want to say after this image, I want to say span actor name. Now I can save and I can see what we have. Let's come here, and as you can see we have Felipe and a picture of Tom Holland. Let me write here only FE, and now we have Felipe and Fernando, and each of them has their picture. So this is working. Now let's continue. So now we need to work with being able to, after selecting an actor, I want to add him or her into a list. So for that, I need to be able to tell to the parent component that an actor has been added. So let me say here on add, and I will pass here actors, actor movie DTO array. There is a reason why what we are doing here, and let me say void here. There is a reason why we are using actors here, and it's because here what we are receiving is actually actors. So let me even change that to actors. So now let's come down here, and let's see that now I need to use this on add. So let's come here, and here I want to say props on add, and I want to pass prop actors and actors 0. These actors here is because the type ahead allows me to select several actors at the same time, but in our case we don't want that, so I just have to select the first one, as you can see here. Now I will say if props actors find index. I want to make sure that we don't call on add if the actor is already selected. So let me say here x.id equal actors.id, and let me put this here. So we're saying here, go to the actors list that comes from the props, and then check to see if there is already an actor with this ID. If there is already one, then do not enter here. So for that, we need to say here equal -1. If find index is equal to -1, then it means that it could not find an actor with this ID into the list of actors that comes from the props. Now let me go to the parent component because we need to deal with that. Let me come here and let me say on add, and let me say here actors, and in here I want to update a list of actors that we will have here, which will be a state variable. So let me come here and let me say here const selected actors and set selected actors equal to use state, and this will have by default props selected actors. And let me create that property right away. Let's come down here and I will say selected actors actor movie DTO array, and let me import that. Let me save, and let's see that here now I can say set selected actors, and I will pass these actors that we're receiving from the child component. And now of course I can come here and say here selected actors, and then now that I have these selected actors here, I can finally come here and below my type ahead, and let me minimize the type ahead so that we can see things more clearly. So let me say here on order list, I will say here class name list group. Now here what I will do is that I will say props actors map, and here I will say actor li. I will say here list item and list item here, and in here I will just put actor name, and here I will put key actor ID. Now let's see what we have. First I need to go to create movie, and at the very least pass an empty array for selected actors, so empty array here, and also the same for edit movie, just so that we can test our application. So let's go back to Chrome, let me refresh, and let's see here that I can say Felipe, select Felipe, and we have Felipe here. Okay. Nevertheless, I don't like to have Felipe here in the text box after he was selected. What can we do about that? Something we can do is a small trick. Let's come back to Visual Studio Code and let's go to type ahead actors, and in here we're going to do the following. I am going to hard code the selection of the type ahead, which will allow me to have a default state that will be displayed on the text box after an actor is selected. Let's see that. Let me say const selected equal to actor movie DTO array equal to an empty array, and now I can copy selected. Let me expand this type ahead and let's come down here. I can do it here, and in here I will say selected equal to selected, and that's it. I can save, I can go back here, I can refresh just in case. Let me say Felipe, and as you can see we have Felipe here, but it is not in the text box. And of course I can select Fernando also, for example, and if I try to select Felipe one more time, you can see that nothing happens because we have some logic that says that if the actor is already present, then we're not going to add him anymore. Now, as you can see here, we have this UI, which is very limited. I would like to display here a text box so that we can include the name of the character of the actor, and also I need to be able to delete an actor from here. I mean to delete him from the list. So let's do that. Let me come here, and I am going to do that a property of the typeahead actors component. So that UI that I just mentioned will be a prop. So let me come here and let me say list UI actor movie DTO, and here we are going to return a React element, and let me import that. Let me say semicolon here, and now let's go to the parent component because I need to define that list UI parameter. So list UI equal to expression, and in here I will do the following. Here I will say actor movie DTO arrow function, and in here I will have a fragment, and let me say here actor name slash input placeholder character type text, and value is going to be the actor's character. Then we're going to do the following. We're going to say on change here equal to, and we will say here e, and let me say this here const index. I want to change the character property of the corresponding actor in the actors property that we have here in selected actors. So let me say here selected actors dot find index x id equal actor id, and let me also close this here, and now let's continue working here. Let me say const actors. I want to clone our selected actors array, and I want to say actors index dot character equal to e dot current target dot value, and then set selected actors, and we're going to pass actors. And in this way we are updating our selected actors array with the value that the user is typing into this text box that we have here. Now that we have this list UI, we need to come back to typeahead actors and actually use it. So let's come here, and in here in this unordered list we're going to do the following. We're going to say instead of this just actor name, I will press enter here and I will say props list UI, and I will pass the actor, and after that I will have an span here which will allow me to put an icon so that we can delete the actor from the list. So let me say bash peel pointer, and let me create a class for pointer. So let's go to index.css, and in here I will say pointer cursor pointer, save, and let's go back here. And now after that let me say style margin left 05 rem, and then we're going to say here on click, and in here I will say props on remove, and here I will pass the actor. Now I need to create that on remove, so let's come here and below on add I'll say on remove actor movie DTO, and this will return void, and that's it. Now I have to go to the movie form component, and in here I need to, below the on add I will put on remove equal to actor, and here I will say const actors equal to selected actors filter x different than actor. So we are filtering the actor, and then I will say set selected actors, and let me say actors here. Something else that I have to do is to come back to type ahead actors, because here I need to add in this span, in the class name, I need to say text dark, and also I need to add some CSS to this list item. So let me do that. I want to say here class name equal to list group item, list group item action, and that should be enough. I should be able to save, and let's come back to Google Chrome, and let's see that we are here in create movie. So let me go down here, and in here I will write FE for Felipe, and here we have Felipe and a character. Let me say Peter Parker, and let me do the same for Fernando. I will say The Rock, and I can delete each of them without any issues. So that's great. But there is something else that I want to be able to do, and that is I want to be able to drag Felipe and Fernando. I mean, I need to be able to drag the actors that I have selected here, because sometimes it is important the order in which the actors appear. So let's see how to implement drag and drop in React. In this video, we are going to work with being able to drag and drop the actors that are selected in our type ahead actors component. So the idea is that sometimes we want to control the order in which actors appear in a page. So for that, we want to allow our users to drag the actors across the list. So let's do that. So we are here in our type ahead actors component, and in here we have our unordered list. And here we're going to do the following. We're going to enable drag and drop in this list item that we have here. So I do that by saying draggable equal to true. Then I want to say on drag start. This is a function that will be invoked when we start dragging something. So I will say handle drag start, and I will pass the actor, and we will create that method in just a minute. Then let me say on drag over. Then I am going to say on drag over, and this will allow me to execute a function when one element of the list goes over another element of the list. The idea is that as we are dragging actors across the list, we need to reorder the array of actors of our type ahead actors component. So let me say here drag over, and again I will pass the actor. And now let's create these two functions. Let me copy this and let's go up here. Here is fine. And here I want to do the following. I want to say function handle drag start actor movie DTO, and I want to put in a temporary variable this actor that we have here, because I want to access that actor in the handle drag over function. So I will create a state variable, because remember that we are dealing with updating the UI while we are dragging the actors across the list. So let me say here drag element, and here I will say set drag element equal to use state, and I will say actor movie DTO or undefined, and I will pass undefined by default. Let me say control dot here to bring use state. Now let's go to handle drag start, and let me just say set drag element, and I will pass the actor. Okay. Now let me do the second function, which is handle drag over, and again we're going to receive an actor movie DTO, and in here we're going to do the following. We're going to say first if drag element is falsy, then we're just going to return. After that, if actor ID is different than dragged element ID, then we're going to do the following. What we're doing here is that we're making sure that by some reason we don't have that this handle drag over is running because an actor is going over itself. That shouldn't happen, but I'm just making sure that that's not the case. Now, if one actor goes over the other, then it means that we are reordering the elements of the list. So, what we're going to do is that we're going to say const dragged element index. I want to get the index of the actor that is being dragged from our props actors parameter. Let me say find index, and I will say here xid equal dragged element id, semicolon here. Now I will do the same for this actor over which we are dragging over. So let me say here actor index equal to props actors find index xid equal actor id, semicolon here. Now what I will do is that I will clone our actors props. So let me say props actors, and I will say actors actor index equal to dragged element. What I'm doing here is that I am swapping the drag element and the actor over which the element is being dragged. So what I am doing basically is just change the order of the actors in the array of actors. Actors drag element index equal to actor. And finally props on add, and I will say actors. This on add name is not very good. Maybe this should be some sort of on change property name, but that is fine. Let me just save now, and this should work. I should be able to go to Google Chrome, and here we have our create movie component. So let me say here FE Felipe, FE Fernando, and JE Jessica. And let's see that we can drag Felipe over Fernando, or Fernando all the way over to the bottom of the list. And not only that, if I write here Peter and here Jane and here The Rock, you are going to see that when I drag, I'm dragging everything, and that includes the content of the text box that I have here. I can drag up, I can drag down, I can drag from the middle up, from the middle down, and all the way up, all the way down, and so on. So, as you can see, this is working. Something else that we have to do now is that when we click on Save Changes, I want to be able to get the information of the selected actors. So let's do that. Let me go back here, and let's go to moviesmodelD.ts, and in here I will say actors, which is going to be optional, and an actor movie DTO array. That is fine. Now let's go back to the movie form component, because in here I need to work on this onSubmit that we have in Formic, because before doing these props on submit, I need to get the selected actors. So for that, I only have to say values actors equal to selected actors. And that's it here. Now we're ready to make a test. So let's start with going back to Google Chrome. I will just refresh the page just in case. I will say something like Spider-Man in theaters. This can be this date. That is fine. Comedy, and I will select an image. Let me select this one. And let me say some bill. And actors, I will say Felipe and Jessica. This is Peter, and this is Jane. And let me say Save Changes. And if I press F12, we should have here in Create Movie TSX. Let me open this up. And here we have actors, and we have Felipe, character Peter, and its image. And also Jessica, character Jane, and we have the genre ID selected, in theaters true, movie theaters ID 1, and so on. The poster, the trailer, the title, the release date, and so on, which is great. Now let me work on an example for the edit movie component. So let me go to edit movie, and let me create here a const selected actors of type actor movie DTO array equal to array, and let me bring this namespace And in here, we're going to have ID equal to 1. I need to actually bring the data of this actor because this is hard-coded, so I want to use one of these that we have here. So let me just paste this here. And now let me say here, selected actors. And before we make a test, let's remember to add a character here like Gerald. And let me save. And let me go back to Google Chrome. Now let's make a test. Let's go to edit/15. And we're going to see that we have Toy Story in theaters. And this is good. And here we have Felipe as Gerald, which means that indeed we are being able to correctly load this edit movie component and also the create movie component. And we have the form ready to be used with a database in a backend. We will talk about ASP.NET Core in the next module. See you there. Just before you go, please notice that we don't have a footer here. That is something that we can fix right away because to me this looks kind of ugly to have these two buttons here right at the edge of the screen. So let me just fix that right away. Let's go to Visual Studio Code and we're here in the app component, and what I want to do is that below this div that we have here, I want to add a footer, and I will use the following CSS classes, class name, and I will say here bd footer, py5, mt5, and bg light, and also I will say div class name container, and in here you can put whatever you want. You can put your social networks, contacts, and so on. I will just put React Movies, and here I will put new date, get fall year, and to a string, just so we have the current year. So let me save, let's come back here, and now we have some margin here, and we have the name of our application and also the current year which we are in. The control components technique is the one that uses state to handle the data in the fields of a form, and the uncontrol components technique is when we use direct reference to the form controls to handle your data. We use the Formic and Job libraries to handle forms and their validations respectively. We created components to have our forms as a set of reusable parts. This allowed us to save a lot of code. We made multiple selection components, both to select different genres and movie theaters, and also to select actors using an autocomplete or type ahead that in the future will be connected to a database.